My name is Kevin Tunstall. I'm a junior mechanical engineering student here at UNC Charlotte. Over the spring and summer semesters, I worked for American Airlines as a base support engineer here in Charlotte with my mentor, John Cagle. So, for a base support engineer, what we do is we write these engineering authorizations, which are just documents that approve and give instructions for any repairs, alterations, or modifications to the aircraft. A lot of the time, there are things that aren't necessarily covered by our like structural repair manuals, electrical manuals, aircraft maintenance manuals, and these are just what we have to do is reach out to the OEMs or search any prior knowledge that we have, previous cases, or even just come up with our own repairs for these things, as they normally are pretty simple things, unless they're major structural repairs. And then what my group specifically does is we cover our Charlotte base, which does our, the heavy maintenance checks of 6 years, 6 year teardown, 3 years, and then even our daily checks and any special visit things like thrust reverser changes, which are pretty simple to do, and even engine changes as well. My group also covers our heavy maintenance vendors, which are just facilities that we contract work out to, and these can be located in Greensboro, Jacksonville, Winston-Salem, San Antonio, El Salvador, and then we've had a few other ones in the past as well, including Hong Kong, which is a pretty neat one. And then mainly at a lot of these facilities we do our Oasis modification lines, which are just kind of 15-day in and out, where we do our interior modification, which is just a unification across the entire fleet of updating our interiors to match each other, and add more seats and also some kind of creature comforts as well to the aircraft. One of my favorite projects that I got to work on was we had a 737 aircraft 3ET come into Charlotte. At the gate, it was damaged by a belt loader. And these kinds of incidents happen a lot. It's just kind of a fact of life. I mean, accidents do happen and they do have to be addressed. Luckily, this happened here in Charlotte, where we have a heavy maintenance facility right next to the runways, where we just able to pull the aircraft in and do some more inspections. So after a detailed inspection, we found that there was three main areas. We have this area 1, area 2, and area 3. Areas 2 and 3 were simply addressed by blending the surface, making sure that the cracks are removed so that they can't progress in the future. And these were also approved as the remaining thickness of the panels after the blending was within the allowable limits of the panels, as these panels are made thicker than required to allow for any in-service damage that might occur. Thankfully, most manufacturers take this into account, as they know that their stuff is going to wear out or it's going to see wear. Our main area, though, is area 1, where we have a large gouge that's 2 inches by 2.5 inches by 200 thousandths deep. And this is also difficult as it's located near the door cutout and near a lap joint as well, which is just the joint between two skin panels. So we designed a trim out area, ensuring that on this right hand side, we designed a trim out, ensuring that we didn't cut through any of the structure behind. As you can see, this green panel behind there, that's the bear strap, essentially where the stringers meet and then it transitions into the door cutout. It's kind of a Y kind of shaped panel. However, we just ensured not to damage anything behind that, and then also not cause damage to the stringer directly behind it as well. As you can see, these horizontal fastener row that would indicate a stringer. So for our repair, we had actually found an existing repair in our manuals for something similar to this case. However, we have a much worse scenario. And in this case, what we did is we used a doubler tripler with a filler in between as well at this top lap joint. You can see here this red outline, that's the filler. Essentially what a doubler and a tripler does is it just doubles and triples the thickness of the panels, obviously just by adding 2 more panels on top of it. And these are also staggered to step up the load or step down the load. Um, and then also the filler just fills in the gap between over the lap joint, as the two panels aren't necessarily level with each other when they go over to the next joint. So we have to fill that gap in between just so we don't have a stress riser on our repairs. We then sent this off to Boeing as our proposal, and with just a few different fasteners, we installed it on the aircraft, and this is still actually flying to this day. But we also had to go through the major repair approval process, which is just a more extensive process through Boeing or whoever, or even with our ODAs, doing more flight analysis and fatigue analysis to ensure that this is a safer flight in a longer term than normally would be. So one of my other favorite projects that I got to work on was for the Airbus A320 flight for the frame 4 vertical stiffener inspections. These are just inspections issued by Airworthiness Directive 2020-0610, which basically requires the inspection of several fatigue critical areas on the window structure, which were found to crack over time just from in-service experience. And this is just implemented as with that in-service experience, they found that these are crack areas, which means you just have to watch them. These inspections start at around 23,000 flight cycles, and these inspections can also be done fairly easily and normally come back clean until you reach around 35,000 flight cycles on the aircraft. So in one of the notable cases that I got to work on, we had aircraft 710, which came in for one of these repeat inspections. However, in this aircraft, we had previously done a repair as we found cracking before. Obviously, it was removed at that point. And then further down the line, it came in to where we are now for an inspection as well, and we had crack indications again. At this point, we did several of our trim out steps and even got it down to our final contour, which is just the complete removal of the stiffener. And you can see on the right by a fluorescent dye inspection, which is just an inspection where you apply a dye to the aircraft or the area of concern, and you shine it under a black light, and that dye should seep into any of the cracks or any defects that you see, and it will clearly visually show you without the need for any advanced equipment that takes a lot of time. However, in this aircraft, you can see a clear crack indication here with this line, this horizontal line, reaching across from this fastener hole. So at this point, with the crack findings, it drove a window frame replacement. And with the workloads that we had in Charlotte, we were actually not able to do this repair in Charlotte, so we had to prepare it for a maintenance ferry flight down to El Salvador. And what this required was just several other inspections on the window frame to ensure that it would be safe for flight. And in these situations where you have to do a ferry flight and you have crack findings, you cannot fly the aircraft as a revenue flight. However, the aircraft can still be safe for flight just with a limited flight crew and with any flight restrictions that the FAA would put on this. And you have to get a permit as well for this, which states your destination, how many stops you would take on the way, and it is approval only for that flight. And so with those inspections and with the aircraft being determined safe for flight, we did fly down to El Salvador, where at that point they did start the process of removing the window frame, which just starts with removing all of the avionics and controls in the cockpit to access the main areas. And then at that point, you remove essentially the entire front of the aircraft. You peel up the crown skin and remove a lot of different components, which is why this takes so long. And here is on the left just the completely removed window frame. This is just an example that we have in our office for our visual aid, as these are basically worthless, well, not worthless, but they can't be used on any aircrafts once they are determined to have cracks on them. So we just have this one laying around in our office as a visual aid. As you can see, these red marks just show the different inspection areas. And then on the right is just a completed installation of a new window frame. And at the end of all of this, it's around $1 million with parts and labor. The parts alone are, $500,000, and the labor can be as $500,000 as well. So one of my key takeaways was really learning to ask for help and when to ask for help. I've kind of been stubborn for a long time, just figuring things out on my own, being a self-taught learner. However, in this industry, I mean, the people around you know a lot about aircraft and history, and they could have worked on the same repair that you're working on right now in the past, and can really easily help you out, or just the different mindset that they have. Seeing things from a different point of view normally helps as well, or they might suggest a different repair that you didn't even think to try, or even acknowledge. And then also learning when to ask for help, as you do have to do that initial work on your own, struggle with an issue for 30 minutes to an hour before asking somebody else, as you do start to, if you're just always asking, how do I do this, how do I do this, how do I do this, you're not really improving on yourself, you're just relying on somebody else to do the work for you. And then also some of the key takeaways was really learning to work in the COVID-19 environment. I know for the first 3 months everything was fine. Obviously, I was doing traveling, working every day. There was tons of people in the office. And then once that 3 months hit, where the COVID-19 pandemic started, most of the people in the building went to working from home or working remotely. I didn't know that was the case for Victor and some of the other co-ops that I worked with in Charlotte. I was pretty much the only one still going to the office during the entire thing. However, in getting used to that environment of like using Teams and WebEx to communicate with the rest of your team, I know that was a big improvement actually that we made, is we kind of all were doing our own thing before COVID, but once we started doing our, we had twice daily meetings, we all knew what was going on everywhere. We knew what was going on at our maintenance vendors all across the United States. We knew what was happening in Pittsburgh. We knew what was happening even with the teams that we didn't talk to a whole lot in Tulsa and Dallas. We knew what they were doing, and even what we were doing in our own facility, just twice daily, going over, okay, what aircraft do we have in, what aircraft are going out, do we see anything in the future that might be coming in that we'd have to deal with, and that was just a great experience, like transitioning to all that and setting everything up. I know I made this quick PowerPoint on how to use WebEx, or how to set up your teams, how to share everything properly. And then even at the end, doing our presentations, presenting to all of the engineering staff, or higher ups, or president of engineering, and all of that. We did a large meeting just through WebEx. Normally that would be a large expo that we would do in person, but we ended up doing it through WebEx, and it was, even then, still a great experience to do. And then some of my favorite days were working on our line issues, our daily aircraft. These are quick turnaround, kind of high stakes, as these are aircraft that are going to the customers, to the gate, to take off within the hour that they leave. And some of they were pretty high pressure, but also really, really satisfying once you get to send the aircraft out finally. And then also getting to see Air Force One land several times. It's political, but at the same time, just that aircraft is beautiful. And then getting to see the airport, it essentially shuts down for the windows that it's taking off and landing. All the motorcades and all that's set up. Even before Air Force One lands, they bring in, all the limousines on the Air National Guard aircraft, and they park, and you can see the limousines lined up before, the president or his staff even comes. And then it's just a really cool experience. You don't even know where the aircraft is coming from. It emerges out from nowhere basically and then lands. And it's just a really jaw-dropping experience, honestly. And we got a great view from it as well from just our office. And then obviously just getting to work alongside the planes every single day, getting to work, going into the cockpits, going into the cargo bays, going into several different avionics bays and all that. Just getting to see all the parts of the aircraft that nobody else gets to see. Just amazing experience. And then finally, all these pictures that I got to take from all my trips. I went to Boston, Chicago, Washington, D.C. I got to see the Air and Space Museum, Neil Armstrong suit, SR-71, and even the 777 that we had in Charlotte for our future training for the 777s that we'd be getting in Charlotte as well, which is just an amazing aircraft as well. And thank you.